there any relevance of native speaker norms? That's a question for TEFLologists. Is it better to focus on form or to focus on forms? That's a question for TEFLologists. If you use a textbook, is your classroom authentic, or should your approach be more learner-centric? From feedback to learner autonomy, we'll discuss it all on TEFLology.
Welcome back to the TEFLology Podcast, a podcast all about teaching English as a foreign language and related matters. Today we are very happy to bring you an interview with Professor Masaki Oda. The interview was conducted at Tamagawa University in Machida, just outside Tokyo, Japan, where Professor Oda performs two roles. First, he is a Professor of Applied Linguistics in the College of Humanities, where he teaches undergraduate courses in linguistics and postgraduate courses in language learning. Second, he is the founder and director of the Center for English as a Lingua Franca, also known as CELF, which provides English language education through an ELF-based approach for all departments in the university. Professor Oda's main interests are English as a lingua franca, English language education policies in Japan, and other socio-political issues in the world of language teaching and teacher training. He has written a number of publications on these topics, as well as presenting about them at conferences around the world. He is also Director of Academic Exchanges for JASET, the Japanese Association of College English Teachers, and Vice President for Membership of Asia TEFL. Matthew spoke with him during a lunch break at a recent forum Professor Oda was jointly hosting. Please enjoy today's interview.
So first of all, Professor Masaki Oda, thank you very much for talking to me today.
Well, thank you very much.
We're here today at the seminar at your university.
Yes, this is a joint seminar of the Center for English as a Lingua Franca,
Yep.
and we usually have this what we call ELF Forum. And it used to be like we customary held that in November, but this year because of the joint event with the CELF-ELTama, which is the alumni association, we have about 400 or maybe 500 alumni who are teaching at the secondary schools and the English teachers.
Yep.
So that's the annual event. So we put two things together.
Great. Okay. So maybe to start with, if I could just ask you to give me a little bit of your history as a language teacher and maybe a language teacher trainer. So.
Okay. Yeah. I started off with the. I graduated from Tamagawa, so just wanted to be a secondary school teacher. Of course, way back, my interest in the language way back to when I was a secondary school student. I used to live in the city called Ayase in the Kanagawa Prefecture, which is next to the U.S. Naval Base, the airfield. So my junior high school I went, and I had this American guy. So we just swearing each other in a way, and but it was a kind of first encounter with the kind of necessity of the language other than Japanese, using the language other than Japanese to communicate with someone to get something done.
Yeah.
And then, of course, from 7th grade, which is quite usual. I mean, we start learning English as a school subject in English. But maybe for a while I didn't realize the English I was using to converse with the American guys. I mean, it was the same language I was learning at school. So there's totally different functions.
Yep.
And then so it was much later which I realized we are actually supposed to have been doing the same thing. And then also my father, who was a professional oil painter, the artist, and he traveled to Middle East. So I had a lot of visitors from Middle East. I don't know which language my father was using, but actually he was like laughing and communicating, joking, something. I don't believe that he understood Arabic, for example, or Turkish, but maybe it was English start with. But again, there was also the different kind of language for me, other than the English used for the conversation with American guys, and as well as the school subject. But anyway, I was able to I became interested in whatever foreign language. And you want to get information, converse with, enjoy talking. I saw that my father enjoyed talking, and I enjoyed talking with the. And then, but when it became something as a school subject, and school more focused on the language for the entrance examination, for example, it became more pain. So I was simply thinking about if there any occupation, I would say teacher, but anything that we can teach the foreign language for, I wouldn't say fun, but for the purpose, the same purpose I was using to interact with the non-Japanese speakers.
Yep.
And then, so when I came to this Tamagawa University, and this university is really known for the teacher training, so it's quite natural that I was enrolled in the teacher training course for the secondary school English. Then for 4 years I was then I did teaching practicum at the local school. So I was about to become a teacher at the Kanagawa Prefecture, so I took exams. But then there was a I heard about this kind of going to overseas, and my father's friend was talking about, and I got some financial assistance. So I decided to continue on to MA in teaching English foreign language. And also I had a choice going to graduate school in education in Japan, as well as ELT. But I thought there was something different. And just going, just for the sake of myself and learning language, but it's more like a different kind of training of the kind of English I expected to be ideal through those inductions. Then I went to the U.S. at the St. Michael's College in Vermont, and where I completed my master in a year and a half. And then after that, I still wanted to continue. And St. Michael was a more practical, practice-oriented, this kind of terminal master degree. A lot of projects. It's a small college, but it's a nicely friendly atmosphere. A lot of papers, and virtually in the winter, it was a very snowy place. So I cannot go out, but stay in the library and read books and project. But it was a nice combination of the local American teachers as well as the people from a different foreign countries. So then I realized, the English I use over there. Of course, I shared a house with the Malaysian and Indonesian, and so I got our language was English, but they had a lot of like a vocabulary, something like, for example, the cooking vocabulary, something. And they are talking of the Malaysian and Indonesian talking in English, and there's some specific item which I don't know, was very local. And they have all the code switchings going on. And then, so I became into my interest. So then I, somehow by accident, I decided to continue. And I went to Georgetown as a PhD, not knowing that it was a really big school. But I got like a couple of offers in the different PhD programs, but I just chose Georgetown because they didn't require me to take a GRE, and that was the reason. Then I went to Georgetown and majored in applied linguistics, and simply I just wanted to reinforce my knowledge of teaching English, but it wasn't really easy. And Georgetown, it was the first time I really felt really negatively about studying in the United States, and then I was not really, conscious about like myself being Japanese, and I was even I was reluctant to cheer, like if you see the Olympic Games on TV and say, okay, we love Japan, go Japan, something like that. I was not that kind. But more time I spent in the United States as a graduate student, and I became a graduate more nationalist in a way, the Japanese, because of a sort of protest, this feeling of being discriminated, that you are not a native speaker of English. And then one episode which actually is a kind of root of what my identity as a scholar on more on the ELF and the world Englishes was Georgetown was very, very famous for the applied linguistics, and there are a lot of big names over there. And here there was a professor who was the former, I think at the time, past president of TEFL International. So I thought that he was really kind of open-minded, something international. And I was so disappointed at one class. I just tried to ask a lot of questions because there's stereotypical image Japanese students are really quiet. So I asked every time. I just made the rule to ask questions. And it seems that this professor had been irritated because I asked so many stupid questions. Then at one time, I knew that he was in a very, very bad mood. And it was something only talking about writing, the holistic evaluation and analytic evaluation things. And I just need that very simple clarification question. So that's kind of yes/no type questions. I don't remember exactly what it was. And this professor, it was a 16 student, was a foreign student and American student. Well, can someone translate what he's trying to say? Okay, now this is not the first year MA course. This was the last semester of my PhD coursework, which I had taken 40 more credit. And then all of a sudden, I was labeled that my English was not comprehensible. Whether this is more on the linguistic or accent, or the more on the things that he was not sure what I was talking about in terms of content. So I got really shocked. And then there was silence. And then next thing was even more shocking. Can any native speaker try to rephrase what Mr. Oda is trying to say? Any native speakers? So I just kept quiet. Then it was really a disappointment. Then they had a lot of things about Georgetown at that point. And there was a kind of PhD written preliminary exams. And so we had to go through. So, nobody likes the exam. But this exam, there was a question. It's a written test. And the question in applied linguistics. What it is basically is you had a sentence written up. Like, for example, I went to Denver airport to see my friends or something like that. The question was actually a phonology question, and the direction, as far as I remember, was transcribe the sentence as if a native speaker of standard American English would pronounce this sentence. Wait a minute. I mean, this is not This is no. If it's like given in the recording, I think it makes much more sense because, and if it is, the purpose is to translate. Transcribes IPA symbols, for example. Maybe I think the department one expect us to be able to transcribe with the phonetic symbols as well as explaining the kind of phonological processes involved, like assimilation or something. But then it was given written, and it was like applied linguistic question, not the English linguistics one. So there's no reason that I have to take exam in English. So I failed that one. So it was like, then no, we have to wait. Because of that question was really bad. Get no credit on that question. Of course, some of my non-native speakers failed that, and they have to take it again. I did it again. The same question gave me problem, and then actually I was told that your candidacy is terminated because we failed twice. And actually it was low, but I kind of appealed because this is a prior English question. It happens to be English, and what is the purpose of testing my ability to transcribe any IPA symbols without giving any audio stimulus. And then they are talking about what your English has to be good, something like that. So there was some infighting going on the faculty members, but there were different opinions. So then finally, I don't know what was happening. They just completely abolished this system. So which means then I got a letter from the dean, Mr. Oda, because we are in the transition, we will give you, this is an exceptional case, we'll give you one more chance to. So something must have been going on.
You think they recognize the mistake they had made?
Yeah, but they don't say they made a mistake.
Right.
But so all of a sudden that they got. Then it was not a written exam. Next time I had to defend the proposal. So you write a proposal. Wait a minute. You say that you are, you are not qualified to write a proposal because you don't know how to transcribe it. Now you say, okay, prepare your proposal and defend it. So the new system, something applied. So then I got a distinction for that. What do you mean? And then she said, because in this one semester, I was told because my English is not enough to do the PhD dissertation, so I had the condition I was given was to stay in Georgetown was number one was get a tutor in English pronunciation by a native speaker. So I had to pay this tutor. Was a teaching assistant of one of the professors, was a native speaker, first year MA student, know nothing about the phonology, and I'm the final semester PhD, and got enough study on that, and but why they have to do this pronunciation drill, like for example, rice and something like that. So there's nothing to. So it's but it's sometimes this nativeness, non-nativeness, can be used as a kind of reason weapon in a way, and I try to encourage or discourage students. So that was one of the things. Although my dissertation topic was more on psycholinguistics, but it was the last time I've ever written anything psycholinguistics. So I defended. I came back here, and then although I was not particularly interested in doing sociolinguistics or a variety of English, which I'm doing now, but I haven't, or maybe I took some courseworks, but I haven't done anything that. But surprisingly, most of the paper which had been accepted for publication were on the sociolinguistics, something which I didn't have a formal training in a way, except for some of the courseworks. So that was a really those experience. Now 20 years later, came back. I think it was because of the foundation of this what I'm doing, and it was a very, very important moment. Of course, in the first couple of years, I taught linguistics in the general course. I taught English in a very peaceful way, but then my involvement with the kind of modern administration, which I was put in a situation that I have more control on the curriculum, or more control on administration. Then I came up with the idea a couple of years ago with this English as a lingua franca.
Yeah.
Can we actually, everybody's talking about a non-native speaker, native speaker, non-native speakers, English, world Englishes, English as a lingua franca. But we are still far behind in a way in order to in terms of the implementation to the actual teaching.
Yep.
So this is the university. We don't have to worry about the entrance exam. So why don't we do that? So that's why I thought it was easy, but it was difficult. So that was a kind of 20 years and in 10 minutes something. But
so actually, I wanted to ask you about some of. So it seemed a lot of the articles that you published. Maybe before starting the ELF Center, did deal with kind of political or critical issues
yes.
in the field of language teaching. Maybe for example, you wrote about the example of linguicism.
Linguicism and like a native speakerism, something. But I think for the last couple of years, also the kind of view has been shifted. It was like started off with, and as with the cases of the, I think, academic discussion in native speaker, native speaker, everything was a binary discussion. Yes to native speaker or no to native speakers. So even now, the discussions there, it's people are talking about yes to British English, no to British English. Yes, so that is really bad. And I come to realize that this is not the issue. So it's like maybe I think in my articles in 1995 or something, I acknowledge that I wrote something like native speakerism. Native speaker is really bad something. It's not a native speaker, it's bad. But I think the problem issue is like what I was going to say at the time was the different native speakers. So which means I do not want to deny or demoralize so-called native speakers of any languages. But the thing is like in the working condition, for example, you have that a native speaker of English who never learned, even attempted to learn a foreign language or never lived abroad, and all of a sudden apply a job and get the same condition as somebody who had lived in Japan for 10 years and try to struggle in life here. And then I think this is not fair. So which is like monolingual, multilingual, monocultural, multicultural. So that is shifted. And also think about the kind of the current status of English, for example. Now, like Nobuyuki Honda was talking about in 2005 and talking multilingual, multicultural English. Now we use English as a international lingua franca, or maybe more with the multilingual, multicultural way. In that case, I mean, our education, the paradigm of our education has to be shifted. So it's not simple as a native speaker, non-native speaker, something. So that's why and it still continue, but that's what the move, I would say the native speakerism is really over. The post-native speakerism era is coming up and something.
Interesting. So then maybe if we could get back a little to the Center for ELF. And as you say, it's a relatively, or maybe it's completely unique thing, certainly in Japan. What have been some of the challenges you faced or the surprises you've had in creating this center? Okay,
first thing is, of course, you cannot, this is the second time I tried in Tamagawa. In order to do that, the English as a more international language. We did more on the English as a foreign language program. By that time, I wasn't not really complete. My idea has not been well thought, planned in a way because, I wanted higher both native speaker and non-native speaker, but I was not clearly thought about the goal or objective of learning. Still, I was relying on so-called native speaker model as a goal. That is English as a foreign language. But for the ELF, I would say I was thinking about, now forget about the exam, which has been a big motivation for the high school students. But after college, students are taking English because that's in the curriculum, unless they really want to have more instrumental motivation to get all work-related. But then think about now Tokyo, like it's metropolitan. Can you survive? Spend like 24 hours without even using English? I mean, to some extent, or any foreign language. So this is the metropolitan area. So then, when you encounter English in the 24 hours, what is the person? Who are you going to interact with using English, or maybe receiving information like on the internet? Then looking at those statistics about the way English is used worldwide, and I think like 80% of regular English users are non-native speakers. So logically speaking, and if you are actually going out of a university and having to use English to interact with someone or get something done, and you would have the situation in which you have to deal with English spoken by so-called non-native speakers, or not the outer circle or expanding circle Englishes. So, which means it is more realistic or more beneficial for us, at least to teach students, be aware of the fact that the way that English is used, and also, maybe you have your own English, but you have to train the student to accommodate the different varieties of English. And so that was one reason. And so we tried to put the problem. So as an objective. So then we had a lot of international faculty members here. But I think then, okay, what can we do? Because we cannot do everything at once, because I think I failed that. So I had a kind of trauma of failing these things, and then when I had to take responsibility. Okay, let me just look at teacher hiring practice. Then I look at also JREC, which is is one of the major portals for the recruiting academics in Japan, and I looked at this, and then still now many universities say native speakers only or native language proficiency, even though even the international arena, TESOL International banned that native speaker, non-native description in early 2000, when I was a chair of non-native speaker caucus of international TESOL, and it was a time. But no, we openly, this government sponsored site is openly doing it. While they are saying English for the international communication, international understanding, but they are actually, exhibiting kind of a discriminatory statement like that. So I think Tamagawa should be the model for to overcome that. So I said no. Well, of course, I think priorities: training background, teaching background, research background, etc. And didn't put anything on the nationality or as far as you have a legal status work in this country, you are eligible to apply, and with academic qualification experience something. But we got a lot of inquiry mainly from Japanese national, say, but this is for the natives. You just try to show it politically correct, because this is for the native speakers anyway. That's how I didn't say it. So against the will, I had to put, we do not care. We do not pay attention to whether you are a native speaker or not. But actually, this should be default. But I still have to put it. The another thing was, so we got a lot of applicants. In terms of the number of applicants, I think there's no dramatic increase in the so-called native speaker category or Japanese national, which was really very weird situation. You have native sensei or native speakers or Japanese national, so you are comparing apples with oranges. But I think what made a great difference was this third group, those who are neither Japanese nationals nor so-called inner circle native speakers. So which means they are actually, for example, somebody from Turkey, somebody from Singapore, somebody from Russia, who maybe most of whom are English teachers and back home and studying in English-speaking country, I would say inner circle countries, but living in Japan long enough. So at least they are multilingual, multicultural background, which is beneficial. And I have also colleagues who has an Australian passport, and but who was actually immigrated from former Yugoslavia. So his native language is Macedonian, but Australian passport. And so that kind of unique people. Well, there's somebody who was a native speaker of Georgian, but because of the former Soviet, got education in Russian, and immigrated to U.S. and living in San Francisco. So maybe after the middle school, and English was the first language. But then in the university, went to Germany for 1 year and the wife was Japanese. So they say, okay, which language you use? Oh, okay, it's very difficult to tell which language. Those kind of things. But as well as they have a teaching credential or something. So that will give a kind of a unique combination of the different teachers. Somebody is talking about, like, for example, there was a war in Yugoslavia or something, and it was a very low-level student. And then students really got the story, those personal stories there. So that's what the language teaching should be. So what's something? It's a kind of byproduct. We cannot really say standardize things, but I think this is something beneficial. So in 3 years, we used to get a complaint of the students because of the teacher has an accent. I got a complaint that I had an accent, so that maybe I think I speak too fast, so it's not a matter of accent itself. But those complaints gone in 3 years. So students are really expecting, okay, what kind of teachers coming next month, because of that we have variety of teachers.
Yeah. Do you think the complaints stopped because just because the center has been here for a few years, students are aware?
Yeah, and also like the multicultural English is default here. But no, the teachers or academics are behind actually. They're still, especially the English department, are the hardest department. It's I'm 50% with the English department, English education department. And they are, I would say, the least, or this is in the podcast, but the least cooperative department. Because I think really have to turn their, I say, identity around in a way. And I understand that. But I think, we need to, I recently read the book edited by Aya Matsuda, and which is one chapter by Yasmin Bayot of Turkey, talking about this ELF or EIL aware pedagogy. And she was clearly stated, and I think it is dangerous to try to do it all at once, but you have the awareness phase. I don't know what's called awareness, and then you have you have to have an exposure phase. So you have to make students exposed to different variety of multicultural Englishes, and then try to do the critical evaluation, then actual implementation, something like that. Then we need to take that step for the teacher side and then do what we can do. And that's what this is what I'm really interested in. So now I'm more interested in, although I don't know whether this is a part of linguistics or not, but I'm more interested in administrating multicultural organization like this center. Now the language is one language, it's English, everybody. But since we have people from the teachers from different culture background, so this is also another challenge, but which is very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of what actually happens in the classroom, in an ELF based center, what are some of the key differences between, for example, an ELF class and a non-ELF or more traditional?
I would say, because I haven't really visited all the classes, but what is likely to happen is teachers are more tolerant about not just the kind of differences, the varieties because of the kind of culture, but because of the student as an individual. So teachers are carefully reacting to students, especially lower level. For example, if a teacher is monocultural, monolingual English speakers, and the students are really silent and do not respond, and this teacher is most likely to react to student as though that student do not understand English. But if student has more background in multicultural or more experience he or she has, the more time that he or she spends in determining how to respond. For example, whether the silence is due to simply the lack of language proficiency, or what happens if the student will ask the same question in Japanese, for example, and it is a difficult question to answer anyway. It is something like, the kind of question that they are not really asked about the private matters, and you are not supposed to ask in the Japanese context, something like that. And also, teachers are really conscious about and give a student the option of like, okay, now whether you use British spelling, American spelling, that's okay, but you have to be consistent, something like that. So that, because I had my daughter because we spent like 2 years in UK when I was on sabbatical. I was in Reading, and then my daughter was in the nursery in the Reading, and came back when they went to elementary school, where the English was a private elementary school, and there was English, and there was one American teacher, and then her British vocabulary, like wedge or like crisp, had been corrected. No, this is not crisp, this is potato chips, something like that. And she was so discouraged. Of course, nice. And in America, we call it potato chip, but okay, in Britain, you call it, that's okay. So, of course, teacher has to know that. But teachers are willing here. Teachers are willing to exchange ideas, something.
No, I see. So it sounds like a big part of it is the hiring process.
Yeah, right. But hiring professors are kind of byproduct of hiring professors. Try to come up, broom in a way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've taken quite a bit of your time already, so I think we'll stop there. But I'd just like to say thank you once again.
Well, thank you very much, and it was a pleasure.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening today. We'd also like to say a big thank you to Professor Masaki Oda for his time. Don't forget, if you'd like to get in contact with us, you can send us an email at TEFLology@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @TEFLology. Like us on Facebook. Visit our website, TEFLology-podcast.com. And rate and review us on iTunes. We'll be back again with another episode soon.